Hello there and welcome. Today's video will be about how to build your Greybor. Despite coming somewhat late in the game, Greybor can be a very powerful character without a doubt. His base class Slayer is one of the strongest in the whole game, allowing him to get a massive amount of attacks when dual wielding, and depending on your weapon choice, amazing critical range with very high damage and critical multiplier. He can certainly achieve decent strength when properly buffed, the same for armor class really, and a good amount of saving throws. So be sure to stay tuned to learn how to properly build your Greybor to become a true assassin capable of easily destroying all of the demons you face in the game. Alright, so Greybor comes at level 10 with full 10 levels of Slayer and quite a lot of feats already picked out. He certainly is built for dual wielding, as he already starts with improved weapon fighting. I'd say the only useless feat he has would be weapon focused Dwarven War Axe. I guess the developers meant for him to use Dwarven War Axe, but unfortunately it's a pretty disappointing weapon type, and for some reason, unlike other characters like daggers for Wojif or rapiers for Camellia, there's really not a single outstanding Dwarven War Axe weapon in the whole game. Well, besides that, Hammer the Gap is also somewhat useless, as the effect itself only applies against the same target, and chances are the target will already be dead by the time this reaches a decent amount of damage bonus. Anyways, let's get started with our Greybor progression. This is going to be a pretty simple but also very powerful build with all 20 levels into Slayer for a pure progression. As far as skills, the skills he already starts with are good enough. So basically athletics, mobility, and also stealth. Now if you already have another character focused on stealth, then be sure to just keep increasing perception. Alright, so at level 10 we get to pick our first Slayer talent. Slayers are a class in that, just like Fighter, they have a massive amount of bonus feats, basically one bonus feat every even level, so they will never be short of feats. On the other hand, because Greybor already starts with some questionable choices, we will have to pick quite a lot of decent feats for him first. And the one I would recommend you pick first is Combat Trick, Improved Critical, and Kukris, as this will be a build focused on dual wielding Kukris. As you might already know from playing with Knock Knock the Goblin in Pathfinder Kingmaker, Kukris are very powerful weapons with extremely high critical range. With improved critical, they will become 15 to 20, so quite a lot of our attacks will be critical hits, especially when you consider we are dual wielding them. This is why I like picking this as soon as possible. Now, another great thing about Kukris is that you will be able to find one of the best Kukris in the whole game, if not the best one really, as I will show you later on, so keep that in mind. For your level 11 feet, go with Outflank. Outflank is basically a must on any melee character really, as you might already know from basically all my other melee builds, and when combined with weapons that have high critical range such as Kukris, you will be able to chain massive amounts of attacks of opportunity for many free attacks. At level 12 we get our first ability point, and all of them will basically go into strength. Remember that as a Slayer, Greybor does not need dexterity at all to get the 2 weapon fighting feats, as he can get them for free. So let us keep increasing strength for more AB and also damage with our Kukris. For your level 12 talent, Combat Style feat, 2 weapon combat, and then greater 2 weapon fighting for a third attack with our offhand Kukris, thus allowing Greybor to have around 6 attacks at level 12 without the bonus one from haste. At level 13, be sure to pick Combat Reflexes to highly enhance our attacks of opportunity. For your level 14 talent, Combat Streak, and then Seize the Moment to finish our attack of opportunity feats, to finish our very powerful feats that enhance attacks of opportunity to the maximum. Now at level 14, Greybor will also gain the Quarry ability, a special Slayer and Ranger ability that gives him a +2 insight bonus on attack rolls against his Quarry target. The main issue with this is that it costs a standard action, so he will not be able to both attack and cast it in the same round. Personally, I'm not a fan of this ability until it actually becomes a free action during level 19. This way we can spam it against every single enemy you face basically, as free actions are completely unlimited. Not only that, but at 19, the bonus will also improve to +4, so very powerful. For your level 15 feat, Improved Initiative to highly increase Greybor's chance of going before the enemy can react. This allows him to catch the enemy flat-footed for way lower armor class. At level 16, as I said before, another point into strength. Now for your level 16 talent, be sure to pick Opportunist. This is a very powerful talent that will give Greybor a free attack that counts as an attack of opportunity against any enemy that has just been struck for damage in melee by another character. Now, because we have both the Combat Reflexes feat and later the Ever Ready Mythic ability, we will have quite a massive amount of attacks of opportunity, thus enhancing this ability even further. And as it is a free attack, it's very good. Now, by level 17 we have already picked some of the most important feats really. So now the choices are a bit more up to you. You can, for example, pick Dazzling Display to make use of the fact Greybor already comes with weapon focus, and you can also choose this, for example here, at level 15 instead of Improved Initiative. This way, at the next level, so 19, we will be able to get Shatter Defenses. And of course, as I just said, you can pick Dazzling Display at 15 and also Shatter Defenses at level 17. The good part about this is that by this point in the game, our spellcasters will already be able to cast the very useful Frightful Aspect spell, and with this spell enemies will be automatically shaken without a save, thus allowing us to benefit from the Shatter Defenses effect automatically, even on unfair. Now at level 18, you have quite a few different choices for your talents. You can, for example, pick Slippery Mind to highly increase the chances of Greybor making will saves, but I find this somewhat useless at this point because we will already have access to spells that basically make you immune to mind affecting conditions, at least at this level. Another talent choice is Wearing Strike. This will automatically reduce, and without a save, the constitution of any enemy that you hit with your sneak attack by a -1. Because this is per hit, the debuff can stack quite easily and very fast. Usually reducing the enemy's constitution will also reduce their hit points, so it is certainly a much better choice than, let's say, Crippling Strike, which only reduces the enemy's strength. Now be advised that most of the bosses in the game and some of the toughest enemies are immune to ability damage, so this talent won't do anything against these enemies at all. And frankly, I find that you already kill the enemy so fast, especially when considering you will be aided by other party members, that this talent is not really needed. I mean, if Greybor did not already start with around 4 talents pre-chosen, then I suppose you could fit this talent in. So be sure to consider this if, let's say, you are respecking him from level 1 through the aid of a mod. You can of course also use Combat Trick to give Greybor a general feat of your choice, such as Dodge, for example, if you want to increase his armor class, Shatter Defenses, as I've mentioned before, and even get him started in the Vital Strike line of feats. Once again, remember that starting from around level 15, the feat choices are up to you, so you can change these around, especially their orders, or even change them for completely different feats based on your tastes. I'm basically just giving you a base progression here. To keep it simple, I'll pick Shatter Defenses, but remember that you can pick this earlier if you so desire. Alright, so by level 19 I have already picked what I really wanted. And this late in the game most of the feats won't be making that much of a difference. You can pick Toughness for more hit points if you want. And you can even pick the very special Dwarven Ratio feat upgrade called Steel Soul. This can actually be quite decent, as it increases the ratio bonus dwarves get against spells by a +2, so +4 instead of just +2. Now you might have noticed that I don't pick the Shake It Off feat with Greybor as opposed to most of my other builds, and the reason, as I said before, just like with his talents, because Greybor comes only at level 10 basically, I don't really find a spot for this, and by the time we can actually pick this with one of our, let's say, 15+ feats, you will already have spells that can grant you immunity against most of the status ailments in the game. So I don't find this useful for a character that comes so late. To keep it simple, let us say you want to pick Dodge to increase Greybor's armor class, although chances are he won't be tanking really. At level 20 there isn't really much of a point in increasing strength, as the value will just become odd, so we won't get a +1 to our modifier. The only point to increase here is intelligence basically. This will give Greybor quite a lot of skill points, but by this point in the game it doesn't matter that much really. So let's just put the rest of them in perception. Now at level 20 we also get our last Slayer talent. A Slayer talent that I didn't cover here before is the Spelling attack, and you can of course pick this early if you so desire. It basically lets your Slayer, in this case Greybor, attempt to dispel the enemy of a buff effect whenever you hit them with a sneak attack. The main issue I have with this ability is that, well, from one hand it does trigger on every one of your attacks basically, so chances are you might be able to dispel something. But on the other hand, the toughest enemies in the game that you have to face have quite a lot of caster level, way above your own character level. so you won't really be dispelling those enemies that much, at least not with dispelling attack. Another talent that you can pick here and also earlier is Familiar and also the Hair Familiar, and the reason is simple. Hair Familiars give a massive +4 bonus to initiative, so keep that in mind. I'll be picking this one here just as an example, but as I said before, remember that you can also pick Slippery Mind, Wearing Strike, Dispelling Attack, Crippling Strike even if you fancy this feat, although I don't find it particularly useful, and of course any other general feat through the combat streak line that you want. Alright, now let us talk about Mythic progression for our Greybor Slayer. By the time you gain Greybor, you should already have access to 3 Mythic abilities or feats. Now the one I like picking the earliest is Ever Ready, to increase the number of our attacks of opportunity and also their power. As you might have noticed from the normal build progression, I only pick combat reflexes with Greybor starting from level 15. By picking this early at level 10, we will already get a lot of attacks of opportunity. And because this is a Kukris focused build, with a lot of teamwork feats that enhance attacks of opportunity, it's a very good choice. Now your level 2 Mythic feat should certainly be Improved Critical Mythic and Kukris. This way our dual-wielded Kukris will get up to ×3 critical multiplier, or ×4 with a Scald even. And if you have a Trickster and a Scald, ×5 for absurd amount of damage really. But for most characters it should only be around ×3 to ×4. Alright, so your level 3 Mythic ability can go 2 different ways basically. My favorite one here would be Elemental Barrage without a doubt. As I will show you later on, by this point in the game, so basically chapter 3, we can find a very special Kukris that has 3 whole different elemental enchantments at once. So just by having that Kukris equipped, we will be able to automatically apply Elemental Barrage to all our attacks, and as you might already know, Elemental Barrage is extremely powerful and can give you quite a lot of irresistible divine damage per attack. Amusingly enough, this mythic ability is way better for melee characters than it is for spellcasters. Now if you are playing on, let's say, Unfair and find your Greybor dying a lot or hard to keep him alive, then you can also pick Last Stand instead earlier, as to highly increases his chance of remaining alive. I'll be going with Elemental Barrage as an example. Now for Greybor's Mythic 4 feat, you have 2 different choices. You can pick 2 Weapon Fighting Mythic, to highly increase Greybor's attack bonus, basically +2 on every single one of his attacks, as you will be dual wielding. This is certainly the one I would pick for hard and also unfair, where enemies tend to have a lot more armor class. If you are playing on normal or core, then you can certainly get by picking Power Attack Mythic this early. It does carry a penalty, but will highly increase your damage. And overall, enemies on normal and core don't tend to have that high armor class, at least not when compared to hard or unfair. For this example, I'll go with 2 Weapon Fighting Mythic. Now at Mythic level 5, you have a few different choices. You can, as I said before, pick Last Stand here, or also the very useful Mythic Charge ability if you like using Charge. As you might know from some of my videos, I absolutely love the Charge ability, and I have already explained how to easily use it, even when out of battle, for very easy charging at the enemy that will catch them not only flat-footed, but also give you a free attack before combat even begins. So this is the one that I like picking the best at Mythic level 5. Another choice would be Always a Chance, although because of the number of attacks that Greybor has per round, I don't find this particularly useful for him. Remember that if you have Camellia or Ember as one of your party members, you can also use the very useful Fortune Hex ability to further reduce the chances of you rolling a 1. So for Mythic 5, I'll be going with Mythic Charge. Now at Mythic rank 6, you have 2 choices. Power Attack Mythic, as I said before, or also Improved Initiative Mythic to highly increase Greybor's initiative. By this point in the game, you should already have quite a lot of buffs that highly increase your attack boost. So I'll be going with Power Attack Mythic, as we will be able to take the penalty to a B at this point just fine. Now at Mythic level 7, you can go with either Last Stand or the Defensive Study Mythic ability. By this point in the game, so at around level 17 or 18 even, our Greybor will already have a decent amount of study target bonus, so this will increase his armor class by around +4 to +5, which can be quite useful. Frankly, when it comes to survivability, I prefer the Last Stand ability, so this is when I'll pick it, especially as starting from now we are at the end game and enemies get a lot stronger by then. But remember, as I said before, you can pick this way earlier if you so desire. At Mythic rank 8, I like going with Improved Initiative Mythic, but you can also go with Mythic Sneak Attacker to increase Greybor's sneak damage by an additional die, so basically an extra 1d6 damage. Honestly, I don't find this that useful, because at this point in the game we already have massive amounts of damage really, so I'll go with Improved Initiative Mythic. Now we are at last at Mythic level 9, which is our last Mythic for all intents and purposes. And honestly, at this point we have already picked the best Mythic abilities, so by now you have a few different choices. You can go with Unrelenting Assault, to increase Greybor's damage by a +2 every single round that he attacks, but once again at this point we already have enough damage. You can also pick Defensive Study, as I mentioned before, to increase his armor class, the Always a Chance mythic ability, and even Archmage Armor to highly increase his armor class. To keep it simple, I'll go with Defensive Study, but remember, as I just said, you also have a few other choices. Alright, now let us talk about gear for your Greybor. For the amulet slot, you can always go with amulets that increase natural armor class, in this case up to +6, so higher than that of the maximum bonus the bark skin spell can give, which is +5. But of course there are other choices. One of them is the very powerful Voracious Spirit amulet that you can get during Camelia's last personal quest at chapter 5. This amulet is capable of giving any of your characters quite a lot of stacking bonuses based on how many enemies you have killed up to until the next rest, so for basically the entire dungeon really. Now when it comes to armor, I like using Mithril breastplates. Greybor doesn't really have that high dexterity, so he can make use of Mithril breastplates just fine for the maximum +5 bonus. Now the shirt and robe slot is up to you. In this case I went with Shirt of Blazing Fighter for the competence bonus to athletic skill checks. The belt choice is simple really. I certainly prefer belts that increase constitution and also strength for Greybor. In this case, the belt of physical might +6, as it can give you +6 constitution and strength, so +2 over bull strength and also bear's endurance, which are only +4. When it comes to the glove slots, the best ones I'd say are the big game gloves, and you can find these as soon as chapter 3 basically, I believe. Basically, these gloves will enhance your Slayer Quarry ability to also debuff the enemy without a save. And this is why they are very powerful, because it's going to work even on unfair 100% of the time, debuffing the enemy with a -2 penalty to armor class, which is not bad at all, and also sickening them for 3 rounds. Sicken is a very nasty debuff as well, that basically reduces their saving throws and attack bonus by a -2, so very useful. Of course, these gloves become especially powerful at level 19 when your quarry improves to Improved Quarry, as it will become a free action, so you can spam it as many times as you want on every single enemy you face. But do remember that the debuff does not stack with itself. If you don't want to use those gloves, another choice are the Gloves of Death Dealer to further increase Greybor's sneak attack damage. Now for the boot slot, because this Greybor has a focus on the athletics skill and also the mythic charge ability, I like going with Boots of Stampede to further increase his damage when charging, based on his athletics skill, so basically up to +20, as what matters is the skill rank and not the total end result. But as usual, we can use something like, for example, the Boost of Free Reign for the permanent freedom of movement effect. Now when it comes to the helmet slot, my favorite for strength based characters is of course the Shy Lily helmet. This helmet is missable, but I have already a video here on how you can easily find it during chapter 4. The +4 profane bonus to strength and armor class are very rare and certainly very powerful. Now you might already have another character that you want to use this helmet on, so I also have some other recommendations here. We have the Windmaster helmet for +4 bonus to initiative, and of course the Clear Vision helmet for +2 insight bonus to armor class, a very rare type of bonus as well. When it comes to the goggle slots, the choice is up to you. Because this Greybor also has a focus on perception, I went with Rascal's goggles for +10 to perception, but you can go with anything really. The cloak slot is very simple. Of course we want Cloaks of Resistance with the biggest bonus we can find, in this case +6, to highly increase our saving throws. Now when it comes to the ring slots, you also have a few different choices. You might already know that one of my favorite rings is the Ring of Guiding Star for +4 to initiative, and also the very powerful bonus to our party members' damage rolls. Another one as usual is the Ring of Evasion, to highly reduce the damage Greybor takes from very powerful area of effect enemy spells. And because Greybor is a Slayer, he will have very high reflex. There are a few other choices, such as the Ring of Luck, for a +1 luck bonus to saving throws, and also the Marty's Testament ring, for immunity to mind affecting conditions, very powerful and useful. Now for the bracer slots, my favorite bracers are the bracers of Heavy Hand, for the bonus damage they give to your offhand attacks, basically a +3. You can also go with the Phantom Slayer bracers, so that whenever Greybor uses his Study Target ability, the enemy will also have to pass a 24 Fortitude saving throw or become blinded. The difficulty class is not really that high at 24, but because we can get this around chapter 3, it can be useful, unless you are on unfair basically. Lastly, we also have the bracers of Breaching, so whenever you confirm a critical hit, and because we have 15 to 20 Kukris, that will be a lot of our attacks, the enemy will also have to pass a Fortitude saving throw of 23 or become vulnerable to piercing damage. Now vulnerability to damage is very powerful, as it means the enemy will take 50% more damage, and since we have Kukris, which are basically piercing, that's highly going to increase our damage. It is true that most enemies will probably make the save, but because this is per critical hit, chances are they will eventually fail their save. This also has further synergy with characters like Amelia, who use rapiers that are also piercing damage. Alright, so last but not least, let us talk about the long-awaited weapon slot. As I mentioned before, this build will make use of dual-wielded Kukris, and the best one in the whole game, at least in my opinion, is the Shock Flaming Corrosive Cold Iron Kukri +3. The main benefit of this Kukri are the 3 elemental enchantments, meaning Greybor will have an extremely easy time proccing the Elemental Barrage Mythic ability for quite massive amounts of damage on every main weapon hit. Fighting this Kukri is also very easy. It is basically in the laboratory area during chapter 3, the same area that you have to go for your 4th mythic rank. Now the second very powerful Kukri that I like to use, unlike what you might think from first glance, is the Radiant Kukri +1. This Kukri has the very rare Radiant enchantment, which gives it an extra 1d6 positive energy damage on every hit. Now, no enemy in the game is able to resist positive energy, so this is going to hit for full damage against all of the enemies really. And remember that even though the first Kukri is just +3, and the second one +1, we can actually increase both of them, so +5 here and also +5 here, by just casting the ever so useful Greater Magic Weapon spell that both Divine and Arcane casters get. Now as Greybor is a dual wielder, you can also use the very powerful Melander's Insult Short Sword to increase the damage, at least on his main hand, by 3d6 for every single hit for 10 minutes, so quite a lot of time, perfect for tough enemies and boss battles. To use this ability, all you have to do is basically swap your offhand slot with the Melander's Insult, then go to your abilities tab and use the ability. Now simply swap your Radiant Kukri back to your offhand slot. Now using your Greybor in battle is very simple, and this will work from both the mid game where you get him at level 10 to also the late game. You might notice that as soon as level 7, so way before you get Greybor, his Study Target ability will become a swift action, meaning we will be able to cast it once per round. So be sure to set Studied Target to auto-cast by just right-clicking it with the mouse button so it appears here in the bottom left part of your hotbar. This way Greybor will automatically attempt to any of the enemies he sees. Now another very powerful Slayer ability is also Query. In this case, for most of the game, it's going to be a standard action, so be mindful that using it on the enemy will not let you attack, at least not on the same round as you cast Query. That is until level 19, when it becomes a free action, meaning you can use it as many times as you want, and basically against every single enemy you see, which will also be instantly cast. So Query here, and he also automatically studied this Gallo here as a swift action because we have it on autocast. We can of course instantly use Query against all of these enemies. So one here, the other here, and the other here. All of this while still retaining our full attack action. Alright, so let us see how our Greybor fares in battle.
Let's make this quick. My finest work.
So we can do around 250 damage on a critical hit, which is further empowered by our Elemental Barrage ability with 9d6 divine damage. And we also have even more damage, in this case from the Crusader's Edge spell and also our Angel Mythic spells. This is all from just a single attack, really. We were even able to get a final result of 89 attack bonus. That's without the 20 die roll. And we do have a maximum of 9 attacks per round, not counting all of our attacks of opportunity of course, for even more free and powerful hits, all in the same round. Thus turning Greybor into basically a meat cleaver, really. Alright, so this was it everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this video on how to build your Greybor. Be sure to comment down below if you think I missed something or have a suggestion on how to build your own Greybor to become a very powerful Slayer assassin. As usual, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel to support it if you can. Thank you for watching and see you next time, friends.